The Home Pros Radio Show.
I'm Tommy Donovan with RIC Home Inspections, and this is the Home Pros Radio Show podcast. Finding the right contractor for the job is a difficult task. You want to find service providers that are utmost qualified for the job and also ones that won't leave you with the unfinished work when they leave your property. We received a question from a listener who asked about both of these topics, and Shane and I shared some time on the show offering a little guidance.
Oh, let's Scout. We've got a text here on the Scouts Pest Control text line, and it's a good one, too. Virginia from Greenville asks, what would you recommend for a payment schedule for a contractor you hire? And she goes on to also ask, what's the difference between a licensed and master contractor? That's what she's saying. What if she's saying master, like plumber, master electrician?
There's different, like say for a master electrician, a lot of them tie together though. For a master's license, you have to take the test, have to be tested as a journeyman and then a master's, which is the highest license you can get for that. And then you turn around and you get your state contractor's license in that same field through the LLR or the municipal association. But there's different licensing municipalities for different licenses. But basically the state contractor's license is like for a company. Like say you have to have a master electrician to get your electrical state contractor's license. And then as far as for the builder's license, once you get that builder's license, the builder's license is usually tied in with an individual, not a company.
Okay.
It gets very complex.
Yeah.
And then as a general contractor, you have to pass that test, but then you get the license through a company as well. So the builder's license is the only one that really ties to a person. The rest of them are state contractors, which you get as a company, and you have to have a qualifier who has passed the test and, had the year's experience to be able to do it.
Okay. To be able to say that you are
accredited. Right. You have to have a master's license in electrical to get your electrical state contractors.
Interesting.
If that makes sense. Either way it is licensed, but it's just different levels of licensing.
And then the other part of her question, she's asking for a recommendation on a payment schedule for a contractor that you hire. I guess that depends on the size of the job.
It always depends on the size of the job. If it's a really big job, like a lot of the jobs I do, like the 203Ks, a lot of the renovation loan type things, they're set up like almost like a construction loan. Whenever you're, say, 10% done, you get 10% of the money. Whenever you're 50%, you get 50, so forth, so on. Depending on how big the job is, let's say we're doing a $5,000 job. Sometimes I will ask for 50% up front and then 50% at the end. If it's a little bigger, I may say, ask for a third of it up front. And then when I'm halfway done with the job, get the second third.
You get a draw.
Yeah. So the amount of money changes over. In the beginning, I have more, but at the end, you're holding more to, ensure that it's done. So, and different contractors have different ways of doing that. So I can't say there's necessarily one that's right and one that's wrong. I would always know the contractor, get to know them and feel comfortable with whatever you are doing, but you do want to keep you always want to hold some money. You don't want them to not show up. And then, leave you hanging. So you always want to keep somebody.
Give them a reason to stick around.
Yes.
You know what they
absolutely
say? How do you get rid of a contractor? You hire them.
I hope that
you always want to give them a reason to become, because it's happened to me.
Right.
Where I've paid I paid the second half. There's a guy who did my exterior painting, and I still have storm windows that need to still be put on my house because we paid the rest of what we needed to, and he was gone.
Right.
So always have that carrot to bring them back.
Oh yeah.
Thanks so much to Virginia for sharing a couple of good questions that every homeowner has pondered at some point. If you have a question for the Home Pros, we want to hear it. Visit our website at homeprosradio.com or simply email us directly at ask@homeprosradio.com. We're always reviewing the questions that come in, and we'd love the opportunity to share the questions and topics that matter to you. That's homeprosradio.com or email us directly, ask@homeprosradio.com. Next, we'd like to share a photo from a home inspection that had the Home Pros scratching their heads. Check out the show description of this podcast to get a look at this edition of our RIC Home Inspections photo from the field. This photo not only depicts an older style electrical panel that has experienced its share of manufacturer recalls, but upon opening the panel, we discovered an unexpected guest slithering around inside.
We got to get right into our RIC Home Inspections photo from the field.
What are you looking at? I know what I'm doing.
Did you see that? This photo is gold. I had one of wasps in an electrical panel that's always been my favorite, but this one's awesome. So Shane called me about midway through the week. He's like, I've got a great photo for Facebook. And we put this out on Thursday afternoon, and it blew up. So if you haven't seen it yet, I don't even want to talk about it. I want people to log in and check it out.
I want them to see it for themselves.
We're also going to be, folks, I know that for those of you who don't do Facebook, we understand that. What we'd like to do, too, with these photos is we're going to actually progressively move these over to our website so that you can see them in our Photos from the Field page on our homeprosradio.com website. But the nice thing about Facebook is it allows us a more immediate access to getting this out there for you to see it. You can also find it on Twitter, which I didn't even mention our Twitter handle. It's the same as the Home Pros on Facebook. It's at Home Pros Radio. So whether you're on Facebook or Twitter, just search Home Pros or just type in at Home Pros Radio and you're there. And you're there if you see this electrical panel with what looks like a nice thick cable weaving its way through the panel.
That's what I thought it was at first.
Mm-hmm. And then you realize that the cable has scales on it, and it's actually a snake has worked its way through the panel. Tell us the story behind this one.
Well, yeah, this was sent over to me by a friend of mine. He's actually a home inspector as well, but he was sorry. Home inspector.
Oh, he is. Oh, man. No, I'm just kidding.
But
I'm glad he found it and I did.
There you go. Yeah, he was out at the house and he sent it over shortly after he had found it. He was like, look what I found. But ultimately you got a snake in there that was trying to keep warm. You know, I guess it's maybe it was a windy day and he decided to climb up in there and get cozy up in the electrical panel.
That's one of we actually had one of our followers actually mention that he responded to the photo with trying to stay warm, and that's exactly what it is. This is the time of year with these critters. We talked about it in our fall preparation checklist series. This is the time of year these critters are going to try to work their way in to where it's warmer. And I would be willing to bet that this electrical panel had a knockout missing on the side of it or something like that.
It had to have something missing for him to get up in there like that.
Yeah. And for him to actually be able to get in there, weave his way through all of that electrical cable and not get zapped. I have no idea.
Yeah. They said he was still alive because someone was grabbing his tail trying to pull him out of there. And that guy, obviously if he would have, completed the circuit, the guy would have probably got shocked too. I mean, hopefully no one would have gotten hurt, but tough lesson learned there, if it had happened. But apparently the snake never touched the hot and be grounded at the same time because, I would assume the snake wouldn't have been alive.
You would have
had that happen.
Snake.
Yeah.
What else do we notice about that panel? I bet there's some electricians out there that would notice something. You would know. You're an electrician.
Well, I mean, I'll be honest with you, I haven't even paid any attention to that picture besides that snake. Because at first I thought the snake was wires. And I kept looking, I was like, oh, okay. And then those wires are bent awful funny, the next thing you know, okay, it's the snake.
And that one is really thick. No, that's it. Looks like a Zinsco panel to me.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. Those breakers on the right. Yeah, that does appear to be an old Zinsco. Which is
no longer manufactured anymore.
No, you can get breakers from one place in town here in Greenville. There's one place that I know of that you can still get those breakers. But yeah, the Zinsco's panels you don't see them that often anymore. You typically see them, like I know Westwood and Simpsonville, it's like every house in there originally had them, but at one point in time, Duke Power was paying to, as they had problems to get them replaced because Duke Power still owned those electrical meters because at the time that those houses were built,
because the meters are built into these panels. Mm-hmm. And what's the issue with them? The Zinsco panels?
You have loose connections on the breakers every now and then. But they're not.
Yeah, I understood that they had an issue clamping to the bus bar and you'd get arcing because of.
Well, it's a strange setup anyway. The bus is completely different than any other panel, so it's a little bit different situation there.
Yep.
We have more to share regarding electrical systems and electrical panels coming up in future podcasts, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. As for right now, we shift our focus to real estate as we approach the busiest time of year for those who are buying and selling homes. That's right, the weather warms up and folks head outdoors to search for the next best house to purchase, perhaps before the next school year begins for the kids. If you're among this crowd of folks looking to make a change, we have some helpful advice to share. It's a list of common mistakes that house hunters tend to make during their home search. Steer clear of these, and there may be a chance that the next home you purchased is the perfect one for you.
This is actually an article that I shared on RIC Home Inspections website this week. It's talking about how emotions can get involved in the buying process. We like to advertise, if you heard our radio ad, is that we like to advertise how, buying a home is an emotional decision. And mistake number one is don't run into the pitfall of falling in love with the property that you're purchasing. Once you've fallen in love with a particular home, it's hard to go back. So avoid the temptation, house hunters. Avoid the temptation to get in over your head financially or the disappointment of settling for less than you deserve. It's best to only look at homes that are in your price range. Start your search at the low end and then work your way up. So that's one thing. You could be looking in the wrong place. Mistake number 2, if you're house hunting, don't do this. Don't be inflexible. Unless you're a high-end buyer looking at custom homes, chances are that for any home you like, there are a few others that are nearly identical to it. Most neighborhoods have multiple homes that are the same model. So even if you can't find an identical model for sale, you can probably find a house with many of the same features. If you're considering a condo or a townhome, you're in luck because you're definitely going to be able to find, similar floor plans, similar features. Mistake number 3, don't get desperate. Again, this is emotion driving the home buyer. Don't get desperate. When you've been looking for a while and you're not seeing anything you like, or worse, you're getting outbid on the houses that you do want, which is happening to a lot of people these days. It's easy to become desperate and just settle for a home that you ultimately don't want. So don't do this. Avoid the mistake so you won't find yourself back at square one when you realize you're not happy and you're having to sell. All right, another mistake, ignoring flaws. I did this. I had my rose-colored glasses on when I bought my house, and then I heard this from my wife. She's over there shaking her head in the corner. She's like, this was the joke for the first couple of years. Who inspected our house? Who did? And so I should have had, that's one thing that I have always said is that I probably would have done us a better service by letting one of my colleagues inspect for us. Because I was like, yeah, I'll fix that. No worries. We got that. Yeah, no problem.
I don't even need to write that one up.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. So, don't ignore flaws. You might be tempted to ignore those major problems with a house. They weren't major, right? Don't play handyman. Oh, I see that this house right here that we're talking about on Facebook. It's one of those things where I like to say they know enough to do damage. They think that they know what they're doing and then they don't follow through. Don't be a fixer-upper. Don't buy a fixer-upper rather. That's more than you can handle in terms of time, money, or ability. If you think you can do the work yourself, then you realize you can't once you get started. Any repairs or upgrades you are planning to make will probably cost twice as much. Isn't that right, Shane?
That is very true.
How many times did you step into a job that's halfway done, or
at least weekly? Yeah. We always get the call. Sometimes it's the husband that admits that he just doesn't have time to do it. A lot of times it's the wife that says, "I'm tired of waiting." So, it happens a lot. We get pulled into a lot of renovations like that.
Our last 3 here on the list, I'll direct you to the Home Pros website or the RIC Home Inspections website where this article was initially posted. I'll tell you one of the things, those last 3 items have everything to do with finding a good realtor to work with. If you're buying your first home or if you're house hunting in a market like this, I certainly do not recommend doing it without a realtor. Get someone who knows the market, get someone who knows how to negotiate, so you don't do things like mistakes 6, 7, and 8 here, which is making a premature offer or waiting too long to make an offer, which is the opposite, or offering too much. So find out more on those topics by visiting RIC Home Inspection's website, or you can visit the Home Pros. We've got those articles all set and ready to go.
For more tips on how to find that perfect home for you, visit the RIC Home Inspections Facebook page at RIC Home Inspections, where we have been sharing our house hunting checklist for all of our followers. Check it out and feel free to offer your feedback and suggestions regarding these topics. We also want to hear from you regarding our podcast. Please take a moment or two to leave us a review. This not only offers up an opportunity for you to let us know how we're doing, but it also will make it easier for people just like you to find our show. Also, as I mentioned earlier in the podcast, you can reach us directly with your questions and comments by emailing us at ask@homeprosradio.com. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Tommy Donovan with RIC Home Inspections, and we'll catch you next time on the Home Pros Radio Show podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Home Pros Radio Show. If you have a question for the Home Pros, visit us online at homeprosradio.com, where you can contact us directly and also learn more about the topics and guests we bring to you each week. It's the Home Pros Radio Show online at homeprosradio.com or on the radio at 94.5 WGTK, The Answer.